When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
All right, listeners, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, as always, Colleen Biggs, and we are only 3 episodes away from episode 200. We are on episode 197. So exciting. And I was saying a couple episodes ago that I've had a couple podcasts in my time, and I'd never gotten to episode 200. I think we stopped at 175 at the last one. And so I've been thinking in my mind, like, what do I want to do for episode 200? So it's going to be something really special. I'm going to put it together. So I'm just excited for all of you to be able to listen to that episode. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and download so that you're getting regular updates. You can do that in so many areas, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, or on YouTube. You can do it on Audible as well, which is really, really great. You can just tell Alexa, and now all of your Alexas are live right now looking like, hello, can I help you? Say, Alexa, listen to Take the Leap with Colleen Biggs. So now all of you are hearing that right now, and she's going to start playing your favorite episodes. And I'm excited because every week, I'm very careful about who I bring onto the podcast. I want to have women or men, because I have started bringing men onto the podcast lately, that really have something to say. And I say that because there are so many people out there that do, but they don't want to say it. They don't want to show up. They don't want to have the opinion. They don't want to stand for what they know is true, or their values, or what they believe in. And when I met Amy Traugh, she was like someone that was like right away had beliefs, had a core, had values. She is everything about the CEO method. She has a book, she has a podcast about the CEO method, and she's really about leveraging data. So we don't always talk about that because sometimes we're like, data can be boring. And we all know that. But as a business owner, you got to put on your big girl pants, your big boy panties, and you got to run a business like a business. And so that has to do with data. So she can give us some secrets on how she's found leveraging data to actually be how she can help so many CEOs really kind of shatter that plateau and generate consistent income. So who doesn't want to create consistent income? Chirp, chirp. Okay, that's what I thought. We all do. So we're going to talk to Amy here in just a second. But before we do, I want to thank today's sponsor of our show, Beyond Basil Mobile Pizzeria. We're passionate about bringing the authentic flavors of Italy right to your event. Our mobile pizzeria is a culinary adventure on wheels where we craft artisanal pizzas using the finest ingredients and traditional Neapolitan techniques. Whether you're craving a classic margarita or looking to explore one of our unique flavor combinations like peach in the summer, our skilled pizziolas are here to create mouth-watering pizzas that will tantalize your taste buds. With our commitment to quality and exceptional service, we aim to provide an unforgettable dining experience for every one of your guests at your wedding or private event. Explore our menu and book us for your next event, or follow us on Instagram at Beyond Basil Pizza. Get ready to embark on your pizza journey adventure like no other with Beyond Basil Mobile Pizzeria. You can find us at beyondbasilmobilepizzeria.com. I would follow them on Instagram because they have the most amazing videos and brand and pizzas, and your mouth just waters. And it's so awesome to see the beautiful weddings and some of the places that they're at. So anyway, Beyond Basil Pizza, you can follow them on Instagram. All right, let's get to Amy. She's a business strategist, best-selling author, and the host of the Motivated CEO podcast. She helps online service providers shatter their sales plateaus and generate consistent income by teaching them how to leverage data to drive decisions in their business using her signature CEO method. Amy, welcome to today's show.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Colleen. And I must say, after that introduction, I am hungry for some pizza. So I am going to check them out too.
I know, right? Me too. So Amy, is it Tro or Trout? Did I say it?
Traugh. But
Traugh. I was
everybody
so
says
off.
Traugh. It's okay.
Traugh.
That's life.
And you should know that because it's Augh. Traugh. Like
The English language is bizarre,
yeah.
isn't it?
Well, have you ever, when I'm working with my grandkids on the English, with the sight words.
Yeah.
And they spell it. And I'm like, that's exactly how it sounds. So that's exactly how it should be spelled. But, we go screw that up and try and spell it something different. And so it's very hard. I just can't, I don't remember way back when I was teaching my kids, but now that I'm helping with my grandkids and it's like, whoa, you're right. And we are wrong. And I don't know why we spell it that way because they're like, but
I
it
say
sounds
the
this way. I'm
same.
like, yeah.
Yes, I do the same thing with my kids. I'm glad it's not just me because they'll be like, well, that's not how it should be spelled. And yeah, you're right. It's English,
Totally.
It's crazy.
So tell me about the CEO method. I mean, we're not going to just drop the bomb and get into that right away, but how did you get into this? Did you have a business background? You were a physical therapist, so for a lot of years. So maybe we should go back to physical therapy and how that started. And why did you want to become a physical therapist? Like what?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your life, a little bit about your family. Yeah.
Yeah. So my journey is very non-traditional. I never, ever set out to be an entrepreneur, a podcaster, an author, any of the things that I called myself today. Never in a million years. If you would have told me back when I was graduating college that this would have been the trajectory my life would have gone, I would have looked at you and said, nope, you're crazy. I'm always going to be doing this. So I had always grown up. I was always injured in different things. I was just a klutz of a kid. It's not even that I was athletic. I was just a klutz. So I always ended up injured and I ended up in physical therapy quite a few times just for multiple surgeries, different orthopedic things. And I thought to myself, this would be a really cool career. So I figured out exactly what I had to do. I did it, graduated super early from college, got my license, got my dream job. I was working outpatient orthopedics. I thought I had it all figured out. I was checking the boxes, right? Going through that proverbial checklist that we all have in our minds that, society says you have to do this, that, and the other, and then you'll be successful. And then you can work forever and retire. And then you can really have fun. So I was going through that.
Yeah.
And
were you married now? Was this the time when you were married?
I met my husband when I was working as a physical therapist. So at that point we still hadn't known each other. So I'm going along the ebbs and flows of life, just chugging along. And it wasn't until 2020 that the pandemic happened. I'm married now.
The big pivot.
Right? Married now. Have 2 kids. My oldest at the time was in kindergarten. Well, when the world shut down, so did schools, so did daycares. My husband and I were both working full time, 40 hours a week. So we looked at each other and go, oh no.
Who does it?
Do?
Do we alternate? How do we make
right? How does this work? Because he's working in healthcare too. So we both have jobs where we're supposed to be going into work.
Yeah.
So
and those did not shut down.
No,
so you're still very active.
We're scrambling. Yeah, we're freaking out, and we're like, okay, well, we're gonna kill grandma and grandpa if we ask them for help because we're
Thank
out
you
of the
for
bubble.
Understanding that because I'm a grandma and I'm like, oh, if my kids would have said like, Mom, we need you to watch all these kids, I'd have been like, no. This is not going to happen.
And plus, with the whole homeschooling piece now added to the equation, I didn't want to put that on someone else. It's like, no, this is my kid at the end of the day. So life always has this crazy way of working out. My employer came to me because I worked outpatient and they're like, listen, we need to cut staff by 50% right now. Who is willing to take a furlough? And I'm like, well, I guess I'll do it because now I'm supposed to be a kindergarten teacher too. Not sure how that's going to go. And my kindergartner and preschooler can't watch themselves.
Stay-at-home mom, scary, and a kindergarten teacher, even scarier.
Oh my gosh, it was terrifying. It was so terrifying. So, we're going along. I'm off of work, just kind of like, oh, okay, what now? For the first time in my life, I had space to think. I still remember I was sitting outside. I live in Northeast Ohio, so it's always kind of gray here. And this day was like the most picturesque day ever. You've got the bright blue sky. You've got the fluffy clouds. There's it's like the perfect temperature. And it hit me. as I'm watching my kids play, I got like the ugly cry going. I'm like, I cannot buy back this time with my kids. No matter how much money I make, no matter how successful that society views me, I cannot buy this back. And it was at that moment I knew something had to change. I didn't know what, I did not know how, but I just knew something had to change. So that was kind of my rock bottom, fall on my knees, like, we're going to figure it out. I don't know how, but we will figure this out. So I had always had it on my heart to start my own business. I always wanted to be a professional organizer because I loved like creating order out of chaos. I loved helping people create functional solutions, not all the like super fancy stuff that like takes you even longer than to organize your pantry because now you're coming home from the grocery store, putting stuff into other containers and it's just stressful. And no, like functional organizing solutions. I loved helping my friends do it. I loved helping family do it. So I'm like, what if I started a business? What if right now I'm off of work? I don't know if I'm going to get called back to work. So I'm just going to start this business. So I did what you do. You learn. You find the resources you need. And the really cool thing about the pandemic was like even Harvard Business School was offering free classes. University of Phoenix, like everyone. So I was just a sponge. I absorbed it all. I got a mentor. I built a really solid foundation and I just started getting myself out there, marketing to people, getting in front of people. And this little idea, it started to grow and grow and grow. And suddenly I was making as much money as I was in healthcare. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. And so, yeah, it was totally accidental. So that evolved then into another community, another business that I started, which has led me to where I am today, which is really helping others leverage the data within their business to achieve the success that they desire. And it really boils down to three things, which is the foundation of the CEO method. So yeah, it's been a wild ride. It has taught me so much. But at the end of the day, now I get to do what I loved about my career in healthcare. And that's empowering and educating others to achieve the success that they desire, because society is noisy. It's always telling us all these things. You need to do this. You need to do that. You should want this. You need to make 6 figures a year. No. What do you want? At the end of the day, your goals are your goals. So I just I
say that to people all the time. And I'm so glad you're on that train with me because it's not about what everybody else says that you should do to fit in this mold. Because if you fit in a mold, you're never going to stand out.
Right. Exactly.
You have to stand out. You have to be different. And I love the way the book I'm reading, Worthy, right now, I love from Jamie Kern Lima. She's the It Cosmetics that sold to L'Oreal for $3 billion, I think. She said, it's nerve-wracking when you're the first to do something the way you do it, right? And no one else understands it because you're the first. And they're like, oh, you can't do it that way. You've got to do it this way. This is what works. And you're like, but that doesn't feel right to me. So I love that you created and were a first on this CEO method. So let's open the door. Okay. We're just opening up the door and peeking in the room of the CEO method. And by the way, she has a book. So you can buy the book at Amy Traugh, Traugh.com. Oh, crap.
It's okay.
AmyTraugh.com, and there's /free book. But her book is out there. I want you to go to her website. We're creaking open the door, Amy. Tell us, what's the first step?
The first step, it always starts with clarity, because if you have no clue where you are headed, you are going to take so many unnecessary detours along the way. So when you take the time to figure out exactly it is that you want, what do you want? And then why? Why do you want it? When you can answer those 2 questions, you will save yourself so much time and energy, because now you can laser focus your actions. You can align your actions to get you to the result that you desire. We're simply reverse engineering your goal, because anything you desire, you can achieve. It may not be the route you think you're going to take, but once you know where it is, it's like punching it into a GPS. You know, if I wanted to drive from Ohio to California and I punch in that information of where I'm going in California, it's going to take me the most efficient route possible. Well, it's the same thing with our business. When we have that clarity as to what and why, it makes that journey so much easier, because now it's, do my actions align with my goals? And we can reflect on that on a regular basis and kind of get back on track when we start to veer off the path.
No, clarity is huge. And that's probably the number one thing. I remember the first person that ever asked me, what do you want? And it, raising children and all of this for so many years, you kind of forget yourself. And then you're like, wow, I've worked for a job, right? So it was all about what they wanted me to do. And I really never thought about it other than maybe what kind of car I want to drive or where I want to go on vacation or what food I want to eat. Most of the time it was based on my kids anyway for food. It's like, well, what do I want? And that was like the moment that you had sitting with your children out back on that beautiful day, watching them play, when you were having this aha moment. And that's kind of what that question is for so many people.
Right.
That aha moment. What do I really want? So if you can't answer that question right now, as you're listening to this podcast, then we need to think about getting you in contact with Amy, because that's the number one question you should be able to answer for yourself is, what do I want? And so getting that clarity is important.
And it takes a lot of the inner reflection, because the world is noisy. The world is so noisy. And a lot of times we consume to avoid hearing that voice within, because it brings up things like guilt. I had so much guilt that came up because I had an awesome job. I had a job that paid so well. I had kids. I have a husband. Like, I have people that rely on me. Who was I to want more? I worked so hard to get this license. I worked so hard to get my dream job, and now I want to throw it away. So just know, as you're going through this, it's not easy, but try and be kind with yourself. Approach what you want in a non-judgmental way. And once you take the time to do it, it is a game changer.
I have to ask you, because you kind of threw a little seed out there earlier. Maybe someone's thinking like I am. She said she got furloughed and she didn't know if she was going to get hired back. Did they ever try to hire you back?
So I did go back PRN for a while, just until I made sure that I finally cut ties. But it was one of those, it was over 3 months that I was off, and they were still considering, they're like, okay, we don't think we're going to be able to resume full staffing at the point that we were, just because of everything that happened. So I did go back, just on an as needed basis, just for a little cash injections here and there, because I was scared. I was really scared to just give up that license. So
it can be very scary. I think it's important for us to mention that, like, it is scary being an entrepreneur, and some of us that have been doing it a little bit longer than others maybe feel a little bit more confident in it, because we've seen the ups and the downs, the ebbs and the flows, but we've also seen what's possible. And when you've seen what's possible, you're like, why would you ever want a job?
Right,
Because you have a set salary with a job. But when you're an entrepreneur, you can kind of make as much as you want, right? And like you mentioned about going to breakfast this morning, I, when with your husband, it's like, you can't do that when you have a job and you're supposed to be there and you have patients that are waiting for you, and have that freedom. I don't remember the last time, you probably can't remember the last time your husband and you went to breakfast when you both were working 40 hours a week, maybe a Saturday or Sunday.
but you had to
but
get a
during
sitter
the
because
week.
the kids were home, you know? So
Right.
yeah, just having that flexibility is
Yeah.
the coolest thing ever. And you're right. You can make infinite amounts of money then as an entrepreneur.
Right.
That's the really cool part. And that's why it's so important to surround yourself by other people that are doing that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my friends at first thought I was a little crazy. I mean, you have to be
All of them think you're
successful.
crazy, but you're going to
Yes.
outgrow that. You
Yeah.
outgrow a lot of their friends and family they have feelings attached to what you do today. I want everyone to know that they have feelings attached to it. So when you are ready, because you've processed through and you're ready to make this big change, they have not processed through anything yet. And so they're shocked, and their immediate thing is like, no, or you shouldn't do that. And when they start doing that, it's their fear of all their stuff and thinking like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. She's crazy. No, she's not crazy. She's processed through it. You are thinking that it would be crazy just to make that like fast decision, because in your brain you went from this person has a job to this person's going to leave that job that they've been at for 16 years as a career and go, start a business, and because it's just sudden that they found out about it. And I think we have to remember that we want our family and friends to support us, but they're usually not the first. They're usually the last.
Yeah.
Because
And
they
it's them
need
trying to
time.
Right. And it's them trying to keep us safe because
Yeah.
they do love us. And I went
Yeah.
through that. And that was hard navigating that at first because it was like, well, why don't you support me? Why are you questioning this? As to why. I mean, I still remember my mom, she's like, are you sure?
Mhm.
Are you sure about this? And looking back, I realized that was coming from a place of love. She was just trying to keep me safe. So as an entrepreneur, if you're navigating this right now, please know that you're not alone. That's a normal thing. That is a normal thing that people are going to do. But even more is why clarity is so important, so that you have that deep knowing inside and you can trust yourself.
That's beautiful. I love that. Are you going to give us a secret on the second piece of the
Yeah.
method? Okay, let's do it. Second
Yes.
piece of the method. Clarity, number one.
Establish systems and automations. My friend, this is what will give you back your sanity.
100%.
This gives you back the freedom. Systems and structure, that's what creates the freedom. This is the nitty-gritty part of running a business that is not glamorous. Most entrepreneurs do not want to take the time to set up their SOPs, their standard operating procedures, their workflows, their back end. But my friend, treat your business like a business and it will grow, because when you start tracking your numbers, it tells you a story. So you can see, okay, this is working really well. How can we do more of this? Ooh, these numbers aren't where I want them to be. Let's get curious and ask ourselves, okay, why? Let's not judge those numbers. It's just data, right? How can we then pivot? What little adjustments, adaptations can we make based off of what these numbers are telling us? So this is the secret sauce. Systems and structures give you the freedom that you want. Yes, it takes time, but this is what will set you apart.
Yeah, it will. I'll give you just a little tiny example. For you to be a guest on today's podcast, you had to register for the podcast, which then asked you a bunch of questions, which then automated a return email to you, right? And which also triggered my team to then take what you send them for photos or those types of things that we need to promote the podcast. You then get a series of 4 more emails that come to you before you even show up today. One, reconfirming, so I know you're definitely going to be there. And we found out that we needed to do that because if someone didn't reconfirm, sometimes they would just not show up for the appointment. So we had the reconfirm. Then there's PDFs that are sent for a podcast packet to prep you for today's podcast, plus 2 other reminders with several things within the body of the email that I need you to maybe connect with me on social media, subscribe to something, link to something. That way, when we are ready to produce this podcast and get it out there, that we have you connected with us on all of these outlets. all of that was done while I was showering this morning, working out, sleeping last night, last week when I was out to dinner with someone. All these emails are automated. So that is a great example of you just being a guest here today and all of that flow of what happened to get you here. And I didn't lift one finger. What I did was I sat down and I wrote all those emails and I created everything in my system and set up all the automation so it would just go, go, go for every single person. I couldn't imagine having to have it on my calendar to remind people and send emails and do this and do that. Like that would just drive me crazy. Automation is so important. And then you felt prepped and ready to be here today. You could have always emailed me if you had any questions, but I feel confident showing up to know that you don't have any questions. You've sent everything you need to send. We're good to go. You've reconfirmed. And now we just get to record the podcast. That's just a small example of just one tiny thing of my business. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, right? Automation and making sure those workflows are in place. And a lot of these softwares that we use, like Calendly, Zoom, CRMs, they all have AI automations now that really help us create that when we don't even have to really think about a lot of that. And I think that's what we're mainly talking about right now, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's amazing. Like if you think about it, how much energy and time that would take to do every single one of those steps over and over and over. Oh my gosh, it's maddening.
It's a full-time job.
Exactly. So let's start leveraging technology, using it to our advantage. And that's the really cool thing. So if you're an entrepreneur listening to this and you find yourself doing a task over and over and over, chances are there's an automation out there for it. Or there's something being developed. There's a company called Zapier that connects platforms that don't talk to each other, and it connects them. So the cool thing is you can go on YouTube and figure out most of this even on your own. So you don't need a huge budget if you're willing to get scrappy. New things are always coming out. Just leverage your resources. Just start Googling. And there are so many cool things available to you.
Sure. Okay, CEO method, secret number 1, clarity. CEO method, secret number 2, automation. CEO method, secret number 3.
It is organic marketing and sales strategy. How are we getting people to go from a follower to a buyer? This is not about positioning ourselves everywhere. You can't be everywhere because if you're talking to everyone, no one sees you, just like you spoke about in the beginning. You have to stand out in a noisy world. That is the key. Knowing exactly who are we speaking to and where are they at, and then how are we moving them through the funnel? Some people view funnel as a bad word. No, a funnel is just a strategy. It's a framework to go from unknown to a lifelong customer, nurturing, retaining, and then having those customers become our advocates and referring us. Because I know you're a huge component of this too, is the referrals. We don't constantly need to be putting ourselves out there for more, even though society has conditioned us to be like, no, you need as many possible followers on Instagram. You need to go viral on social media. No.
You need to be doing 20 videos a day, which some of my kids do, but that's exhausting to me.
Same. So how are we making this work for you? Once you take the time to map out, how are you going from awareness to conversion? It makes the process easier. So taking the time to do that will save you time. Taking the time to go through and establish the clarity, establish those systems and automations, and then get a really solid organic marketing and sales strategy to move from follower to buyer. It's as simple as that.
It is.
You do these 3 steps over and over and over, and you will see your revenue increase. These are the secrets to building a sustainable business.
For sure.
Not just one that you're relying totally on social media for. No, a business that is built to last.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you all remember in our last episode, we talked a lot about finding joy in your business. And this is it, right? This is how you can leverage data to find that joy in your business. No more does it have to be hard and I've got to do everything. We just talked about simple automation so that you're not sending emails and reminding people over and over and over again. I mean, I think the automation is one of the best things, and I set it up for everything in my business. I have automation set up for, and you just have to have the right systems for it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
it comes down to. Amy, you've been a
Exactly.
joy. This has really been a lot of fun. And she's just so happy all the time, smiling, all happy. And it's been nice to know your story a little bit more and get to know you a little bit more on the podcast. And I'm sure that the listeners feel the same way like I do. It's always a joy to get to know people as people and really see where their struggles were. Now we have another story of someone who was affected through the pandemic and took that scarcity of what they thought was going to happen. And oh my gosh, I have to become a stay-at-home mom. And now I've got to be a kindergarten teacher. And how do I do all of this with my full-time career? And both my husband and I are in healthcare, to creating this amazing business and now being home with your children more and being able to experience life like that. Like, this was a huge gift from God for what, that you're like, hands up. I want to be furloughed because this is going to change my life. I don't know how, but I feel like this is what I need to do. And what a blessing that was for you. Wow.
It really, truly was the
exciting.
biggest blessing, looking at life in retrospect. It all fell beautifully into place, and
Yeah.
it's just incredible. And if you're listening to this, just know, like, if I can do it, so can you. Sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith.
For sure.
You just have to. Is it easy? No. Is it scary? Yes. Is it worth it? Absolutely.
100%. 100%. Amy, thank you so much for being a guest on today's show. For all of you out there, thank you so much for being loyal listeners and spending the time with us and Amy today and every week. And we're creeping toward 200. We have 3 more episodes. So make sure you're listening so you can see what episode 200 is going to be, a big surprise all about. And remember, if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, I always end every episode to say, remember, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that's ever going to be. So what are you going to do in your business that's going to change things for you so you have more joy, so you leverage data? I mean, we could go back episode after episode after episode where we're giving you information so that you can be as joyful as we are in our businesses. Love what we do. It's not hard. What we do every day, we enjoy. We're making plenty of money. You've got to jump on these trains and get these mentors, because if you're not doing that, you will continue to struggle, and we should never, ever, ever have to struggle, ever. So Amy, thank you so much for being so happy, so joyful, so present, and for showing up as your awesome self. I just loved today's interview.
Oh my goodness. Right back at you. Thank you so, so much.
All right, listeners, that's it for today. Remember, until next time, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.